Hello, everyone, and welcome. And thank you so much for joining us tonight. This is the last, I want to say, Zoom series of the year. We have had some great topics, and tonight is no different than the other great Zoom topics that we've had. So tonight we're going to be discussing, well, the topic is boss up and how to become a director. And so we have my host, my lovely host, Rashida Hall and Andrika Thomas. And I just want to give a little background. I'm sorry, y'all. My name is Danielle. I am the founder of Black Women in Clinical Research. The mission is to educate, empower, support, and help Black women thrive in the clinical research industry. So we are just going to go ahead and dive in. We're going to have our speakers introduce themselves. Maria, could you please introduce yourself?
Sure, just needs to unmute myself. Hi, everyone. My name is Maria Thurman. I am so excited about this forum today and to join you. I'll give you my title. I am a global portfolio therapeutic head for rare disease and ophthalmology. I work for a very large CRO. I won't say the name. And my opinions are my own and do not reflect the organization for which I am attached to. Feel glad to be here.
Thank you. Latrina.
Thanks, Danielle. Latrina Watkins here. In the same fashion as Maria, I am excited to be a part of this forum this evening. I am a director of clinical operations at a small CRO. And our mission at our CRO is to ensure that we are able to get clinical trials and different therapeutics to people in limited resource settings. So the mission is the same to, be able to provide treatments to humanity as a whole. But I think the mission at our CRO is a bit different from what I've experienced in the commercial fashion, in that we are strongly connected to the people that are producing or participating in the clinical trials. I will have to say that my opinions are my own as well, and they don't reflect my company, but in some ways they are aligned. So I'm excited to start the conversation.
Well, thank you so much, Maria and Latrina. I guess we're just going to go ahead and dive in with the questions that we have. So the first question that I have is, what are the necessary steps in order to become a director? Maria?
So I think everyone's path is different, and it also depends on what therapeutic area or function that you're in. Because I sit inside of project management as an area, my path probably was very traditional. So I've been a study coordinator for a very, very short time period. I then moved into an in-house sort of CRA role, then started traveling as a traveling CRA, and then moved up through management from lead CRA to clinical trial manager to associate project manager. I took that path and then into directorship. So I really think it depends totally on a person's background, how they matriculate through the ranks, and in what groups they matriculate through the ranks. I happened to work for companies where there was a clear delineation between sort of project management and clinical operations. And so I just happened to be sitting on the project management side. So that is the track in which I've remained. But I encourage folks, as we get more into the conversation, your path is your own. Definitely blaze a trail wherever you believe your interests are and wherever you are better suited and served.
Thank you. Thank you. Latrina?
Yes. So quite naturally, there's always a natural progression, right? You have the individual contributor, then you go to the manager, you go to senior manager or associate director, just depends on what company you're at, and then you get to director. But the most important thing is what Maria said. You have to find your own path. Our industry has so many different functional areas, and you have to find your niche. You have to find your space in which you thrive well. For me, my path was, it was not traditional. I started out in the call center in medical communications. And my background, I mean, I was granting disability for the state of North Carolina, right? And I wanted something different. And I started out in the call center. And from there, I went to clinical operations where I was a project assistant at a larger CRO. And then I went into study startup, right? And then from study startup, I went into project specialist, which is a function within the project management group. So for me, I was really as soon as I started, I was trying to figure out where I could shine. What really spoke to me. And great kudos to you, Maria. Project management was not my favorite thing, but I had to experience it and learn it and know it, because there are some skill sets in project management that you must have as a director, right? But then I ended up landing in clinical operations, where I did co-monitoring, or I did in-house monitoring for about 4 years. So I've never made it to the role full-fledged, right? But the experience I got during my in-house monitoring positions, I was able still to get on site and co-monitor and learn so much, because I was able to help lead monitoring visits, etc. So from there, I went into management. And from management, I just kind of moved on through to associate director to director. So I found that ClinOps spoke to me. And then I learned everything I could learn about ClinOps so that I could kind of get to a SME level with certain things, so that I could continue to grow. And that's how I got to director. So it's just going to be important for you to find what speaks to you, know what functional area really, gives you that sense of fulfillment, and then take the route to grow within that functional area to get where you desire.
Thank you. So do you think that with being a director that it's important to know all of the roles? Do they look at that as if, is that kind of almost like the indicator of how they feel that you would be able to kind of be a director? Is it, do you really have to have like that knowledge from each role, like overall as an applicant? Do you think that was helpful?
It was helpful to have the experience in the roles that I had my experience in. But for instance, I have no experience in data management, but I know enough about data management to demonstrate knowledge when I'm speaking to a client. So it's going to be important for you to understand the whole spectrum of clinical trial management in this industry to be a successful director.
Okay. So with being a director, what is the most amount of people that you guys have managed?
So I'll go for directly versus indirectly managing. Mm-hmm. So for direct management, where I'm responsible for career progression, succession planning, salary planning, bonus planning, all of the sort of nuances of true line management, I would say between 8 and 12 people at a time. If I look at my indirect management, which means I'm responsible for a portfolio and I'm doing global work with a number of different clients at a time, I would say it's 100 plus individuals for which would sit under my sub-organization within the larger unit of my company, or the larger business unit that I sit under. So 100 plus there. But again, I'm not responsible for their day-to-day, but I am responsible for providing feedback for those individuals for which I come in contact with. It's important for me to also be leading and guiding them the way that I need them to present my company and our work to a client. So there's still some soft skills that I'm teaching, even if a person is not directly reporting to me. There's also some knowledge skills that I'm looking for them to have. And if they don't have it, I'm working with their line managers to direct them and build plans with specific goals and being intentional in what my feedback is for them, so that they're also able to grow in their role. So that's
Thank
been...
you. So
yeah.
Latrina?
Yeah, for me, I have managed directly up to 19 people as a direct line manager. And then, of course, as Maria said, once you get into the director role, you have up to hundreds of people under your remit. Right now, our company is growing. So I manage 2 departments, and I have I would say about 10 to 15 people under my remit. But directly, I have about 8 right now. And so, well, that's currently because I've had to split. I had 3 departments. I had to split it off because it was becoming too many. So I already grew a manager and passed them on to another functional area. So it's a lot of movement right now. But yes, you have multiple people under your remit who you don't necessarily manage day to day, but you are responsible for ensuring your managers within that functional group have the tools so that they can continue to grow the group and keep them on track.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. So how many years of experience do you guys have?
Yeah, I have about 14 and a half years in clinical research.
Okay.
I have about 24 in clinical research. I have about, of those 24, 16 of them are in management or directorship.
Okay. And I know earlier we were kind of talking that you and Latrina know each other previously. Can you tell us a little bit about that story? We're really, interested in how that all transpired. The fact that both of you ladies are, directors now. How did, explain that kind of dynamics, how this happened?
Latrina, I'll let you take that.
Okay. So Maria has been, like she said, in directorship for 16 years. So we actually worked at the same company for a while. I was there for 7 years and she was there way before me, but I left and came back to that company. And when I came back to that company, I was still in the in-house role. And I saw that Maria sat on my floor and I stopped by, I said hello, and we just kind of forged a relationship from there. And I would stop by and we would just chat. She would give me insight just about career growth and progression. She was very open to answering questions that I had about how I should grow, because I was really trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I knew I liked ClinOps. She was always strategically aligned with project management, but she always gave me positive insight, just nuggets to kind of help me along the way. And they were very helpful. So thank you, Maria, because today I have progressed and I took that advice and I did the things that she imparted to me to get where I am today. But we were also friends. We had regular conversations as well.
We did.
It wasn't always about career. It was about life, right?
Yes. We stood outside in the parking lot trying to get to the cars talking.
Right.
We've had a personal relationship. What you'll find there, and this is a safe place, right? Mm-hmm. We can honestly say that when you're in these larger organizations or even small organizations, you don't see many people that look like you. Mm-hmm. So when you are in leadership roles within those companies, when someone sees you and you look like them, they are immediately attracted to you.
Yep.
Now that is a gift, and it should be taken very seriously, because you have the opportunity to reflect a positive image of what it means to be a Black woman to another Black woman, mm-hmm. or you have the opportunity to completely crush or hinder an individual from, or to jade that view that they may have had of what it's like to be in a specific role in a particular company. Mm-hmm. It's always my goal as a director, because I promise you, I am the only one sitting at the table. Typically, my name is called out in rooms, and so is Latrina's, that we don't know about. Mm-hmm. But it's reflective of the image that we have within the company and the perception that people have of us. I always try to be open to individuals that say, hey, how did you get where you are? Can you give me any advice? And I will always share my journey, and I will always give you what's been given to me or what I've learned along the way. And Latrina has done the same. Mm-hmm. And I encourage anyone on this call, I don't care what level you're at, you're in that position for a reason. You're in that position to pull or help someone else who is trying to get there. And that's what this forum does. That's why I'm so inspired and encouraged by this particular forum. Danielle, you may not have been in a large CRO, but that does not matter. What matters is that you're the plug, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
You create the avenue and everyone else comes. And it's a marketplace, and it's beautiful. Not to be sentimental or soft, but it is a beautiful venue, a great place for women to come, a safe place. And so as we matriculate through the industry, it's important that we keep that same light on for other people, because we're not going to be in these positions. We want to move to whatever the next run in the ladder is for us, but who's going to come behind us? I always want someone to come behind me to take my seat or to take a seat beside me. And that's what we all try to do in these positions, at least the ones I'm connected to.
Right.
Yeah. I think that's so important. And that's the space that I've tried to create with Black women in clinical research. I know that it was so difficult for me to get started in clinical research. And I just remember going through this and saying, I don't want it to be this difficult for another Black woman. I want them to have the resources that's here, because it always seemed like it was secrets and tips in order to get into clinical research. So I wanted all of this to be available to any Black woman that was interested in clinical research. And I really kind of want that for our group. And that's why, you know, I'm so passionate and about clinical research. And just because I know that it's a great career, and I don't want another woman to struggle like I struggled when I tried to enter in this industry. So thank you, ladies, so much for that. I think it's definitely important to have that sisterhood, and that sisterhood can take you to the next level. So I'm going to go ahead and have my co-host answer the next.
Yeah, that was really good insight. Thank you so much for even bringing that up. Like Danielle stated, I think it is really important. And like you two stated, it is so extremely important for us to make sure that we're able to talk amongst, you know, everyone who is wanting to learn about the opportunities that we have in this career, in our industry, and share all the knowledge, because it really doesn't make sense for us to keep any of that inside. It serves us no purpose. It doesn't serve the next person a purpose. And so I love that you guys, you know, had that connection, and that is exactly what we're trying to do with Black women in clinical research. So my question is, and I always ask this because I think about what my next steps are within my career, and like what my, you know, far future is. Are there any certifications or levels of education that you feel like you need to obtain before you can get into a director status or role?
Yeah, Latrina, you can go.
So for me, I will just say, when I look at the director role as a whole, right? Most directors have some level of master's degree. Does that mean everybody's going to fit that mold? Absolutely not, because we're in an industry where experience is everything, right? So that is going to be the most important thing. Does a master's degree help? I would say yes. And the reason I say that is because when I first got promoted into management from an individual contributor, I disclosed that I was matriculating my master's at the time. And it almost seemed like they looked at me differently. And so it's not to speak to my capabilities at all, right? But you always have to be aware of who's hiring. Okay, so be clear about what the expectations are at your company. Look at the job description. If it requires a master's, then you know that's what you need. But so that's going to be important. Where are you trying to grow, right? What company are you trying to grow into the director role? But I will say, as a whole, when I look at CVs, I do see a level of master's. Now, certain certifications aren't necessarily required, but I do know that at our company, we look at degrees, and we look at master's or higher for director.
Now, is there a specific degree or specific master's degree to specialize in, business or management?
Many directors I know have an MBA. My master's is in health sciences with a concentration in clinical research administrations from the George Washington University. If you are interested, please do go look at the program. Sorry, I had to do a shameless plug. But it's a great program, and they have some local professors. That's why I like them. But no, but many of them have an MBA. But a master's in something related. So you know how the biggest thing is when you're looking for a monitor, you're looking for a bachelor's in life science. It's kind of the same thing. They kind of want to know that you understand not just how to manage, but the industry as well. So something needs to be married when you're thinking about the degree program you're looking at.
That makes sense. Maria, what's your take on that?
So I'm probably the Lone Star Ranger. I have a bachelor's. I don't have a master's, although I'm matriculating for one, actually. I agree with Latrina. I think when you start to look at job descriptions, you do start to see advanced degrees that are requested or required. And it's important that you're able to check those boxes. Sometimes it's the credibility of it, but the experience also is really what takes you further. Yeah. When you become a director, as much as regardless of what functions you've come from, you have to think differently. And if that doesn't come organically or natural for you, you sort of need that education piece to bring that forward, whether that's an MBA, whether that's something in clinical research management, whether that's something that's in health management, whatever those areas are, it should, depending again on your function and your department, it does help. It assists you in speaking the language, knowing how to sort of walk through what strategic planning is. The scale and scope of your skills changes dramatically when you become a director, from moving at the project level to more program level management, then up into directorship, which means that you're dealing directly with clients. You're helping them plan their entire asset through development. So that could be from preclinical all the way up through phase 3. And that's a heavy weight to carry if you don't understand sort of the foundational elements of business and what it means for a company when they say, I have to go out and raise money. I have to get investors. Here's when we expect those dollars to come in. How can you creatively plan a budget for me based on my capital that I have today versus the capital that I have in the future? So I say all that to say, not to get you bogged down, but to really say you start thinking strategically. So your expertise has to rise to that occasion. You can get some of that from business, but you can also get some of that depending on how you matriculate through your positions and through your roles to get to directorship. I tell people, don't just look at the next position that you're trying to get to. Look at the position after that to make sure the next position is putting you in right position to possess that next level. You can't think too small. If I'm sitting here and I'm a project director and I know that I ultimately want to become a vice president, I'm looking to see what the vice presidents are doing, what their path was, because I know my next step is not where I want to live. It's just where I want to land. So keeping all that in mind, we have to think above and beyond that. And in directorship, you just have to think differently. And degrees, to answer the question, education helps you tremendously with that. And if you don't have it, you can get it, right? There are other sources. So don't let that stop you.
Yep.
Very true. And you talked about what I was going to bring up as my next question a little bit, but I wanted to know, what is your main responsibility of a director? So you say you work directly with the clients. Does that mean that you work with the CEO or VPs of those biotech companies when you're managing portfolio? Like, what does that look like for you?
So when I introduce myself to clients, I tell them, my name is Maria Thurman. I'm responsible for overall delivery of your entire project and program cross-functionally. So that means that if I have a client and they have 4 protocols with me where we're doing full service, and what that means is I've got project management, clinical monitoring, medical safety, but they may have some single service. They may have what we call FSP, which is sort of a service line. We're a service provider for a single service. So maybe they are working with another CRO for the full service, but they're working with me for just the medical part or just logistics. So I'm responsible for all of that work. So if there's an escalation anywhere in their book of business that's sitting under my remit, my phone's going to ring, my email's going to ping. So with that said, I'm responsible for problem solving with them. I'm also responsible when they call me and say, Maria, look, we met with the FDA. They want us to add another arm. I know we already started the study. How do we do that? without disrupting the entire project. It is my job then to not have all of the answers, but to be able to think strategically, assemble the team that I need, broker a conversation to get them the intel that they need. So you think differently. Don't think that you have to have everything in your wheelhouse to get them to done or get to the solution, but it's knowing who to go to, what service lines you need to contact, how you need to position them, what you need to make your clients, to keep your clients satisfied. And also importantly, I need to know who my key stakeholders are on the client side and internally, because I need to know if this person is upset, what makes them important? What is their role? I need to know that for all of the players at my client. And Rashida, you mentioned biotech. Biotech companies tend to be very, very small. They're working with 3-4, a small team of folks. So my counterpart, although I do not have a VP title, I have a senior director title, but my counterpart may be the CEO. It may be CMO. It may be the president of the company, and I cannot be intimidated by that. That means I need to know what I need to know, right? So it means that I'm doing some extra work. I need to know what's in their pipeline. I'm looking at their website. I'm looking at their development so that I'm able to speak to that when I'm meeting with them and I know what's important to them.
Thank you. And then Latrina. So I know that you guys, so Maria, you're working at one of the larger CROs, right? And then Latrina, you said that you work at a smaller one. Is the responsibility still the same, just on a smaller scale?
It absolutely is. We call it executive oversight, right? All directors and above are assigned a client. And as Maria said, when you introduce yourself, that's how you introduce yourself. I'm responsible for the delivery of your asset here. So if you have any concerns, come to me. You know, if there are things that you have questions about or you feel like they could be better, then I am your point of contact. And she's right, your counterpart could be the CEO of another company, but you have to make sure you stay grounded and say, it's my counterpart and I have a job to do. And so that's how you present yourself. At a smaller CRO, I think the interesting dynamic there is that most often, Maria, is the VP or the CEO, or it is the person who wrote the protocol. It's always somebody who's very closely connected to the project or to the compound. So they have a huge investment personally and from a funding perspective, right? So they are really looking to you to think strategically and to make sure that their baby is delivered according to what their expectations are. So it is absolutely the same. Relationship management is almost one of the top things that we do as directors to make sure that our clients are happy and we are able to provide the desired resolutions or solutions to them. And she's absolutely right. You won't have all of the answers, but you will know, or you should know, who to go to glean that information from so that you can set up a plan and be able to present that strategy to the client where they'll be satisfied.
Thank you for that detail. I love the dynamic between having both of you here at different, CROs and how it's the same, but a little bit different. So thank you for that. With both of you saying you work with CEOs and vice presidents, and sometimes you're working with someone who's written the entire protocol, is there an intimidation factor there? Or was there any grooming to help you kind of get to that point? Do they provide mentorship or executive coaching? How does that work?
I absolutely have mentorship along the way, right? And I think it started with the monitoring aspect. And I think once I had this little nugget, it just carried with me throughout my growth and progression. So, as a monitor, your nerves are wrecked when you're going on your first visit, right? Because you're like, I have to speak to an ND. Yes. I have to speak to an RN who have all these years of experience. I am not an ND, but what you are is an expert of the protocol that you have learned. and that's your job. So you have to be clear about what your job is. And so that has helped me going forward. So I'm like, yeah, I'm speaking to the CEO, but I know my job and I have the tools and I have them in place so that I can do my job and I can present myself confidently enough to make sure that this client feels that we're going to get the job done as a company and that their study or project is in good hands. So I think that's important, but you will be intimidated initially because you're like, oh my gosh, I don't have all of the business acumen that I may think I have, or I don't know this protocol as in depth as the person who wrote it. But that's when you have to do your due diligence as well. So if you know you're going to be speaking to a topic or the protocol, you have to make sure you get the information and you get the knowledge. So you have to take the time to learn it, to impart it. Think about what a client is going to expect. And that's going to come from experience, right? Like Maria said, if they want to add another arm and the study has already started, you can glean that from experience, or you can go to somebody who has the experience. And if you don't understand, ask for the breakdown, ask for them to help you understand, because you're going to have to be the one to speak to it. So I think it's just mostly about knowing what you're capable of, right? And understanding where your resources are so that you can level the playing field in your mind. Because a lot of times it's mental and you kind of have a lot of self-doubt. But once you are able to use the tools available to you, organize the team, the right team for which you are trying to execute whatever task you're executing, you'll be okay. And just know what you're the expert in. They have come to you to operationalize a clinical trial for them because they can't do it. If that's where you know you stand, then that's where you step up and you shine in that space.
Absolutely.
Awesome. And then Maria, has your company provided you any executive coaching or any mentor, like official mentorship for your role that you're in now?
I have to say no. The last company, because I just made a change. So I actually just came off garden leave for 6 months and back in the saddle again. But I was with my last company for 12 years. And I have to say, I created my own advocacy team of people who were in executive roles. I reached out to them myself. I can tell you my most pointed and instrumental mentor that I've had was a white male. And he absolutely helped me understand how to navigate this organization that I was in, because he knew what I was doing. And the best advice he gave me was that, Maria, it's not that you're not doing the job. You're doing the job for which you're trying to get to. No one sees you. Because A, I wasn't at the headquarters office. B, I wasn't on high profile projects where they're getting a lot of attention from executive management, which sometimes that's bad because that means they're on fire.
Yeah.
Others, it means that they're large enough that they have an executive sponsorship that sits at the higher level of the organization. So once I was able to get in front of people, start working on company initiatives, I was able to create, it gave me an opportunity to create and build relationships with people that were in positions where I was trying to go. And that's sort of what worked for me, but I sort of created it myself. You'll find that many times larger organizations do sometimes have mentorship programs for women or some executive leadership program, but they're hand selected for participation. You may not sometimes get selected, but does that mean that you're not equipped for that next level? No, it does not. It just simply means that they've chosen someone else. So you create your own path. I am such a believer in creating your own path towards your own passion. You just have to do it. And that's what I found to be successful for my journey.
Okay. So making sure that you connect with people outside of your own role and try and put yourself in front of what's moving so that so when those opportunities come up, they'll say, okay, Maria, yeah, she was good. Or she's very active. Okay.
That's very important, Rashida. From when I was, it's funny you say that, Maria. I had the same situation when I first got into management. My mentor was a white male. He gave me so many tools, and he gave me the inside, right? Yeah. And I would, I was coming from the in-house monitoring role, and everybody wanted to work from home. He said, "Don't go home." And I said, "Well, nobody's here." He said, "Don't go home." And he said, "You need to build your presence, and you need to cater to the right audience so that you could continue to grow." No problem. And that's what I did. And I stayed in the office when we were decentralizing the whole department. I stayed in the office. Maria, you saw me. There's like 2 people there. I'm in my office with my light on.
That's right.
And every event that we hosted at the headquarters office, I made sure I was on the agenda.
That's right.
I stayed in front of the crowd. And then I would see Maria. Here's Maria. She's coming in the door too. We were always on the same platform often. But that was just some advice from my mentor. He was like, you need to be visible, because that matters. It really matters. They hear your voice. They hear that you're connected to a certain success story here, but they don't know and see you. They haven't seen you in action. So that is very important. And she's right. Some companies, speaking to programs, our company did not have that, but you're right. They were cherry picked. I was able to go to a lean boot camp for 1 week on the company, because they saw the many initiatives that I was involved in at the manager level. And they were like, "Oh, she could help lean our processes up," right? To kind of make us more efficient.
Yes.
Yeah. And so they sent me. And it was a cherry picking situation. But the company I work for now, everybody goes to the Leadership Academy at every level. It's different cohorts, but they started with the executive level, but we all went through a Leadership Academy to hone in on leadership skills, even at your own level. How can you, if you are an individual contributor, if you're a study startup associate, how can you be the best study startup associate and kind of step up into leadership there? Because it's just going to ready you for the next step, right? So it was really refreshing to walk into a company and say, "Oh, like everybody just has to take it." It's more, it's not so much as, "Are you interested?" It's, "This is your date." So that was, smaller companies can do that, but it was refreshing, and it's important. But find you a mentor, and you'll be surprised who the mentor is.
That's right.
Oh, that's great advice. I'm over here like, okay.
Yeah.
But those are all the questions that I have. And honestly, being a director is something that I foresee myself being. So this is such good information, and I really appreciate you both coming in and doing this for me, or for us. I said for me too, and everybody else. So right now I'm going to pivot to Andrika.
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
I am like being so blessed by this conversation right now. I would never imagine to be at director's level, but you guys are putting hope out there and that we can achieve this level, which is wonderful. I'm so happy that you girls, you women are in the position you are in, and you are dropping gems for us so we could be inspired to be in your position one day. So as we know, life teaches us a lot of lessons. What lessons have you learned on your way to the top about yourself?
Would you like, I'll go. For me, it's just be consistent, but be you. I think along my journey, you start to try to conform to what you think they are looking for. And then you don't necessarily present your best self in that space because you feel awkward, you're uncomfortable. But you have to be confident, be consistent, and be you. And that is one of the lessons I learned, because when I was trying to conform, a lot of self-doubt settled in, because I'm like, well, maybe I won't step up to the plate and it won't look the way they want it to look. But once I said, okay, I have to settle that, to put that to the side and say, I know what I'm capable of. I know what I know. I know what I've learned. I know what I've done in the past. I just need to show them what I know. And that really, really helped me, because I just had to dismiss self-doubt, accept who I was, and be confident in what I brought to the table. And that was one of the biggest learning lessons for me, because as you continue to grow, your audiences get bigger, the visibility heightens, and you can kind of get nervous, but you just got to be clear on what you know and what you have the ability to do. I will also say the biggest lesson that I've learned is to make sure you connect yourself with people who advocate for you. Everybody is not your advocate, but you have to be able to acknowledge that quickly, so that you don't keep any type of negative energy around you, and you just continue to rise above that. So connect with people, kind of like Maria said, she created a circle of advocacy for herself. And for those people, I'm sure, who she felt, oh, they are not the right ones, she nicely or respectfully just dealt with them on a professional level and moved on. So yes, always connect with those who advocate for you, but just be yourself. Be confident in your skill set and your expertise that you bring to the table, and be yourself. Those were the major things I know that I could say off top that I've learned.
For sure. Even with my mentees, I always tell them to be genuine, because even for interviews, they start getting like in their heads. I like to use that phrase. They get in their heads and they're, so like stiff. And I'm like, you just have to be naturally yourself. They like when they see personality. Just be authentic always. Be confident in what you know and be authentic.
Yeah.
What about you, Maria?
A client will know when you are not when you are like BSing. They will know.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure.
They catch it off gate, and you have to be able to just be your authentic self and speak to what it is you need to speak to, because they'll be like, they will definitely call it out in a minute.
Yes. What about you, Maria? What lessons?
I think the biggest lesson is culture. Understanding and knowing and identifying the culture of a company. That's one thing that I can say was lost on me early in my career. The other lesson I've learned is know where you fit into the bigger organism of a company. Know what piece you contribute. Know where you are contributing. Mm-hmm. I would say the third thing is, as Latrina mentioned, conformity. There's no need to conform to what you think they want. You have to be who you are so that you can remain that person. Yeah. They're going to expect to see the same person every time, not a different version of you. So it's important that you're genuine from day one. Remain humble. Yeah. When you're placed in rooms with people that you wonder, how did I get here? Or it can be as simple as riding to the airport pre-COVID with the CMO of your company because he shared an Uber with you, and you have a conversation and they drop a nugget. Remain humble in that moment. Always know where you're going. Always know what your path is. You don't have to have the answers on how to get there, but at least know. Always have that 2-minute elevator pitch, whatever that is. If you happen to run into the president of your company and you're on the elevator, what would you say to him or her? What would you ask of them? It's not uncommon for people to say, how can I help you? What can I do for you? How can I serve you? If you don't have an answer, then you've missed an opportunity. Yep. So be ready for that. So I can say those are lessons, just a few lessons that I've learned along the way that I try to pass on to other people in our industry and outside our industry.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. I also put in the group, I made a post that says, post your elevator pitch here, but we only had like one response, which was really, really good. But I hope that all, like the rest of us, learn how to do that because it's super effective when networking. I personally need to work on that myself. So that's something I will do. So definitely be visible, put yourself out there and be prepared. So I know you just gave some advice on how to maneuver to upper management, but do you have any other additional advice for that?
I don't think so. I mean, I think at the end of the day, be sure it's what you want. My husband tells me all the time, too much is given, much is required. So I don't have a platform that I can complain at all, because he's heard me say what I want. And forgive me for saying this, but this is who I am, because God has blessed me to walk through every door.
Yeah.
When I put it before him and said, okay, God, this is where I think I want to go. If it's in your will, let it happen. It happens. So when I've asked for it, I don't then get to complain about it. Right. Does it get hard? Yes, it does. Do you have to learn how to take criticism? The higher up you go, you absolutely do. And the difference between being in a different role than being a director is that you then have to act on that criticism or that feedback, regardless of whether you agree with it or not. Yeah. And that's where the humility comes in, but it's also where the action comes in. And you end up having to, I mean, you're still, because there's so few of us, you still have to prove yourself. I took a leap, left a company after 12 years that everybody knew me. I knew everyone else. And I took a leap of faith and started, I always say start over, because then these new people have to get to know me. I have to get to know them. I no longer have that cushion of my advocacy team or my mentors or any of that around me. I don't have people who have seen my record. And so they know if I'm having a bad day, she's having a bad day. I don't have that luxury. So now I've got to be at 99.9% all the time until I build that again. And that takes a leap of faith. But know that the last thing I'll say is know when to go.
Yes. That was going to be me, Maria. I was going to say it. Know when it's your time to move on. You said some great things, Maria, as far as making sure you want it, because it doesn't come without challenge. And you have to be clear on that. And you're right. If you asked for it, you walk in it, right? If it has been, if God has blessed you with it, then you have to walk in it. And I've always been an advocate for, if he's giving you the vision, then the provisions are already made. So when you get there, everything is going to be okay. You will be fine. You just got to walk in it if that is his will. Just be sure. I saw a question come through. Are the hours long? Yes, the hours are long, because you're not just managing 2 to 3 people. It's a functional area or functional areas. You have multiple people under your remit. You could have multiple clients that you are the relationship manager for. There's always going to be issues. I work for a global company. They work around the clock. I get pings on my phone on the weekend. Or in the morning at 2:00 in the morning, because Asia Pacific is working.
Right.
So yes, the hours are long. So be sure that's what you want, because it does take a level of commitment to be able to produce at that level. Right. And just to close it out, I heard you say, Maria, because it goes along with the thought of knowing when to go. This is why authenticity and being yourself is most important, because when you walk into a new space, you are the consistent part of whatever is new. It doesn't matter who your new manager is. It doesn't matter who your new team is. It doesn't matter who the company is, the temperament of the CEO. You are the consistent being. And if you always show up as your authentic self, and you are confident in what you know with your experience and your expertise, guess what? You get a new advocacy group, right? It's gonna happen. You will start being your visibility will heighten before you even know it. I felt the same way, Maria, when I left the company we worked together at. I said, oh gosh, I'm going to a smaller company. I already know the visibility is going to be there. This is a new role. This is a new position. They don't know my work ethic.
That's right.
So it was my responsibility to show up as myself. and just shine. And that's what I did. And now you start gaining the respect of other people to be able to have your COO come to you and say, I was impressed with you from day one. I was floored, because that just means they're watching, but you have to show up.
That's right.
Be you. You'll be fine, but just make sure you want it, because it does come with challenges.
Absolutely. Understandable. So what's next for the two of you?
Okay. So that goes, for me, it goes along the line of making sure you want it. So the natural progression of things is director, you go to senior director, executive director, and then VP. But you got to be clear that you want VP, because it does come with another level of sacrifice. And so that's what I am toiling between. But I will say what I want immediately is to become an adjunct professor in some clinical research program. So I am working on that. That should be solidified by 2021, because that's just something that I've always held near and dear to my heart. Even in my previous experiences, I've always been some type of mentor, but I also love to train and create trainings and get people on board and show people a way or a pathway or a caveat to learn more, to perfect the skill, perfect their craft. So that's just something that I personally am interested in doing. But I do think that VP may be on the ballot for me, but I have to assess the level of sacrifice that I'm willing to make after I continue to progress at the director level.
Yeah. For me, I'm trying to decide, how do I contribute in this vast world of clinical trials, patient care? Where will I be best suited for me and my personality? I think, is VP in the future for me if I so desire it? Yes. But the question is, do I desire it? Same as Latrina said, got to know that that's where I really want to be and where I want to stay. Because there's some positions you take that it's okay to digress. There are other positions that you take, a digression is seen as failure. So I have to be sure that if I go to that level, that I plan to stay at that level and perform above level.
You have to be sure. You're right. You'll see it as career suicide is what they call it. But so you have to be sure before you take that next leap. And that's what I am thinking through.
Yeah. So we'll see. So stay tuned for Maria and Latrina in the future.
Stay tuned.
I am here for it. I am here for it. Thank you, ladies. Back over to you, Danielle.
I'll say, let me take this off of mute. We have a couple minutes for questions. Let me see. Let's go through this. Okay, that's not really a question. How do you balance your career, relationship, and kids if you have any?
Let's try like
I am thankful for a supportive husband. I have to say that you will need a support system, whether it is a husband or family, immediate family, or a friend system around you, because it will be a lot of hours. So he does pick up the slack when I have to work in a long meeting in the evening, or if I'm up early because I have to have a meeting with my team in sub-Saharan Africa, right? So he'll take the kids to school. So just having that support. But I think for me, it is him that supports me, but it's also learning when to cut it off. Creating boundaries is the only way you will be able to sustain balance. So if I know I have a 4 a.m. meeting and I've started working all of that day, then I say, okay, by this time, Eastern time, I'm done for the day. And you just have to get up. You just have to get up, because there's always going to be a ping. See, when you're a director, as Maria said, they have your cell phone number. So it can go on all day long, 24 hours a day. So you have to know when to draw the line and say, no, this is family time. No, this is when I cook dinner. So you have to create those boundaries for yourself to sustain the balance. I always take 2 vacations a year, period. That is just my boundary for myself. I have to unplug. And when I go, I don't take laptop and I don't take my phone. I do assign a backup while I am out, but you just have to give yourself that space. And if you don't, it can be definitely become so overwhelming that you won't even be able to function because it's just too much going on. So having a support system and creating boundaries for yourself, I would say are the 2 major things that have helped me create balance in my life.
Yeah, I would say I think balance is sort of a figment of our imagination. I don't believe there's anything called balance. I think it's impossible to create, but I do believe we can create priorities, and those can change depending on what season you are in your life. I can say for me, very much like Latrina, a very supportive spouse that said, hey, Maria, go get it. If you want it, go get it. And I think that is important. Having a strong support system, as Latrina said, I echo that. But my husband was very much like, if that's what you want, if that's where you want to head in your career, go after it. And oftentimes we're traveling because it's not the frequency of travel, it's where you're going for the travel. So we can do turn and burns all the way across the pond. I've gone to Constance, Germany to present for an hour because I had the expertise. And that's another thing I was intending to touch on. I made a note about as you matriculate through the industry, become an expert in something. Become an expert in something that is undeniable and something that very few people have. My secret bag of tricks is I have tons of ophthalmology experience. So I'm a red herring. There's not a lot out there unless you work for one company in particular, and that's Aura, which they focus on ophthalmology. But because I have that, I'm attracted to a lot of companies. Make sure you have a secret power, and that is mine. You will find out what that is as you sort of go through your track, but it will carry you in the most unlikely places, in the most unlikely times. I went across the pond to Constance, Germany to speak to a team for 1 to 2 hours because I had ophthalmology experience. And this was a GI study that actually the drug ended up causing some lens opacifications. And I knew how to run that study. I had designed a study like that early in my career, and I had the experience, and I was the only one in the company that did. So it opens and unlocks doors that you didn't know existed. So I'm off my soapbox now.
Well, thank you, ladies, so much. And to go back to what Latrina said, if you want to be a teacher, Black Women in Clinical Research, it has open arms. We waiting for you. We ready to learn. So I'm so serious because we have so many women in the group that are looking for that opportunity to just learn more information, learn about clinical research. And if you are willing, we will love to offer that opportunity for you to train, because, you know, we have about 1,800 members in the group and we're growing. So if that is something that you desire, we are all for it. I'm like, so I'm so serious.
Yeah, we can be your guinea pig if you want to try out, you know, a lesson to see if it'll work for your students. You know, we're here for that. Okay.
Yes, please. I have like Rashida was saying, I have my pen and paper. I have my, you know, like what I'm about to say for the recap. But I just want to thank you ladies again, Latrina and Maria, and my admins, you know, for tonight and just learning more about a director. A lot of these, I didn't even know about this because I haven't met a Black woman that was a director to have this conversation with it. Just tell me about, you know, what it takes in order to be a director, and just the information that you ladies have shared just I think it's so important. It's so important for us to have these conversations so that other Black women know that being a director is attainable. And no matter what, sometimes we might feel a certain type of way, or, whatever kind of issues we might be having in our job might kind of disrupt you from going that route. But you have to know that even if something happens, you just have to get back up and you have to try again. And some of the takeaways that I got from tonight is to be confident, be genuine, be humble, be yourself, and prove yourself and be authentic, and knowing your path. And definitely, I know I need to work on my elevator pitch too. I kind of have it a little bit down. I can say, I'm Danielle, I'm CEO of Black Women in Clinical Research, and then give the mission. So I don't know if that's, the beginning part of it, but I definitely feel like it's very important. And to be sure of yourself, and, whatever you believe in, know that God is with you every step of the way, and that, learning how to take criticism and stepping out on faith and walk into your destiny and show up as yourself and shine and keep shining and help another Black woman. Like, if you got to pull her up, like both of y'all can come together. Like, we all there's enough opportunity for everyone. We can all win together. I just want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you, Danielle.
Thank you. Good night.